How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and this is another episode of...
What in the world do you think you're doing?
We're reviewing a Golden Age hero. You know, that's kind of what we do on this channel. You know the format, Lost Heroes of the Golden Age?
You're doing the Green Giant comic again.
This wasn't my idea. I wasn't going to do any more Green Giants. This was a request video.
A distinction without a difference.
No, there is a difference. I wasn't planning on reviewing any more of this. Just did the other two, and that was going to be it.
This is your fault for introducing them to a comic book that never hit the newsstands in the first place.
Allegedly never hit the newsstands. It can't be completely sure that a couple issues didn't get out there. Now, can we continue with the review?
Don't drag me into this.
Okay. This is another review from the Green Giant comic book. One issue may have never hit the newsstands, as we were just saying. And I have mentioned in two other videos with the Master Mystic and the Green Giant, which was the cover feature. Now, the Black Arrow sounds like a superpowered superhero, but he's actually just a fighter pilot with the moniker of the Black Arrow. Now, having some form of military service in the Golden Age comic books was not an unusual thing, whether it be people on boats, naval officers, people in the air being part of some sort of Air Force or Air Brigade, whether it be troops on the ground, usually of some rank, like when we did of Captain Valor. There was a lot of military as part of the comic books. Now, a bit of this was kind of propaganda to keep people interested and invested in the war effort that was happening overseas. Because, as you know, when World War II originally started, we did not want to be part of the war effort. We didn't actually join it until we got bombed at Pearl Harbor. That's what brought us into the war. So in the comic books, we had a number of different military services fighting the Nazis, just like the superheroes were back then, to keep people invested in a war that we originally didn't want to be in the first place. The Black Arrow is another one of those. So let's go ahead and cover another propaganda piece of a comic book that may have never hit the shelves on this episode of
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
I love the enthusiasm.
Ugh.
Well, let's get started. Black Arrow. The Black Arrow, Rex Norton, first appeared in Green Giant Comics #1 in 1940. The original publication was Pelican and created by unknown, so no one is credited for the creation of this. Now, the Black Arrow is a fighter pilot, and this wasn't that unusual in the Golden Age. There were fighter pilots littered all over comic books, whether you were Centaur, Hoyoke, Fawcett, DC, and I think even Timely Comics had some of these, which would later become Marvel. They had fighter pilots all over the pages. I mean, there are so many fighter pilots that I could do a top 10 list, a month of reviews, and still only grab a handful of them. Now, some were more popular than others, and some of them were even more popular than the heroes that they appeared next to. It made people feel more connected when they're watching the fighter pilots, and I think they even had some based on true stories of fighter adventures. But fighter pilots, not an unusual concept in the Golden Age. So that's basically what the Black Arrow is now. As we know, Green Giant comic didn't put out another one, so this is a one-and-done story. But two things in this story that annoys me in storytelling is at one point someone says, "as you know." Well, if it's as you know, why does it bear repeating? He already knows it. And in two separate instances, one of the bad guys says, "remember, yada, yada, yada." Why did you need to remind them? If they forgot, then that's an error on your teaming up, not an error on you. I mean, yeah. So as you know and remember, you'll see it as we review this. So let's go ahead and cover the first and only appearance of the Black Arrow. And it starts off, The Black Arrow, an exciting story in picture featuring Rex Norton. Magnetic missiles of doom. In an attempt to fathom the strange disappearance of an American ship, crew, and passengers following a radar flash report that it is being attacked by a mysterious armed raider, Rex Norton the Black Arrow, which I don't know anything about him as black, is flying over the North Atlantic sea lines. Now, he is telling us, the reader, that he intercepted a mysterious radio transmission and goes out to see what the reports are. Now, this is definitely not a plane for combat, so why you would be answering a distress signal, I guess maybe he wasn't expecting combat. Now, he sees a periscope, and then he notices that they are firing torpedoes. But wait, they're not torpedoes. They're actually planes with folded wings. The planes unfold and start to attack the ship from the air. Rex engages them, and we see the Black Arrow painted on the side of his plane, so that probably is why he has the trademark of Black Arrow. Now, he engages in some aerial, I guess you can call it combat, because he's out flying the other planes, and he has to shoot them down with a machine gun that he has in his cockpit, because this is not a fighting plane. He shoots down one of the planes and sees a mysterious flashing signal, but he can't read it. The flashing signal comes out again in a different intensity so he can read it, and it says, "Warning to you who have foiled my plans this time, but all ships on the ocean will be sunk. You are doomed." So he goes to report this to HQ. And at this point, they're talking, and he goes, "As you are aware, all attempts to trail or identify these raiders have failed." As you know, he already knows that. There was no reason to tell him that. Now, he says he has a plan. So he leaves the HQ and sees a woman in distress and attempts to help her. He enters the car that they run towards, and it looks like he gets slapped. And he goes unconscious. And why a slap would render him unconscious, I have no idea. But he looks like he is rendered unconscious, and he is taken back to the lair of the criminals. And at this point we get, "Quiet, little one, remember, it is I." I'm like, of course she knows. You're right there. Okay, so they have a big exposition dump, and they pretty much explain the plan right in front of who they thought was the unconscious Rex. He is, in fact, not unconscious, and even though in one panel he appears to be tied up, he is not tied up. Lunges forward, knocks out the bad guy. Ties them and gags them both, takes his map and special goggles, which, as we learned from the exposition dump, the map is the location of the next target, and the goggles allow you to read the flashes from the ship that lets you know what the next course of action will be. As he gets in closer, the criminal he radios the good guys about what's going on, because he sees the radio signal. And then the bad guys see that it's the Black Arrow from his vision scope. Okay. Now they blast him with so many radio waves that it cuts his engine off, and he brings it in for a soft landing because he's got one of those like pontoon planes. They take him aboard the ship as a prisoner, and then they notice that the radio transmissions have been changed. The main bad guy, who has created the radio waves, wants to take on the boat himself because there is millions of dollars of gold. Now, the guy in the sub has now felt betrayed because he thought they were partners, and he gets ready to engage the ships on the sub himself. And now Rex knocks out some of the people aboard the ship who already have an answer to start pretty much fighting each other. He gets into his plane and starts doing some aerial combat, I guess. And he holds them up, and then they see that the spy ship and the sub are actually firing on each other. And just as everybody's going down in smoke, 3 pilots from the Navy show up, answering to Rex's radio signal. And he goes ahead and gives them the space that they need to finish taking down the bad guys. And at the end, he goes, "As usual, you took too many dangerous chances, but the United States government thanks you for clearing up the mystery of the Sea Raider." And then we go to what I've always loved it when you don't have another issue. Another exciting episode of The Black Arrow in the next issue. Watch for it. Watch for what? It's the only issue. And that is the first appearance of The Black Arrow. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about this hero. If you're actually interested in more propaganda characters that kept people interested in the war, you can always request that, and we can do a couple of more. But I'm always anxious to do requests, and I've got more videos on the way. So until next time, I'll be seeing you.